our webinar today. Good, I'm recording, which is wonderful, on Coach Credential, which is right for you. It is part of the Coaching Out of the Box webinar series. We'll encourage you to go to the website, but you know what? There's a lot of resources, a lot of information, including some really cool webinars on the Coaching Out of the Box website, all in service to the vision and the mission of Coaching Out of the Box, which is based on that question you see on the screen. What if everyone had coaching skills? And our vision is to see that they will. And the mission is to see that they do. So you'll notice that we are recording. You will receive a link to the recording and the slides after the webinar and information on where to contact us. We'll talk about that in the webinar as well, just in case you miss it. And as Sandra talks about in the chat, the questions make this rich. We want to make this as useful for you as possible. So throw your questions, your comments into the chat. We'll be monitoring it all throughout the webinar today. So we're gonna dive in, and the first thing we get to do, or I get to do, is introduce myself so you know who's talking. I am Rosa at Inga. I am one of the coach facilitators at Coaching Out of the Box, and I'm excited to be here. In addition to being a coach facilitator, I have my own coaching practice where I get to work with leaders in healthcare and public sector. I'm also a coach mentor, I'm a facilitator, and I am a very proud ice cream mom, as I call myself. I will be the co-host of our webinar today, and I am really, really, really excited. Anytime I can do a webinar with her is wonderful. I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming Allison Hendren. She is not only the CEO and founder of Coaching Out of the Box, she's a master certified coach, and I get a lot of wisdom from you, Allison, no pressure, whenever I do these for you. So you introduce yourself better than I can, so I'll, bring you in so you can introduce yourself.
Well, I had a brief moment where I realized I had stuff all over my desk. And I suddenly went, oh, they can't see the real story.
The magic behind this all. I love it. I love
it. Love it. So I think I tidied up a little bit. Anyway, welcome everybody, and so great to have you here for our webinar on credentialing, which is always, people always have lots of questions, and I know Rosa will mention it. And Rosa, I love your hair, by the way. I see a new look. It looks fantastic. Anyway, I am the CEO and founder of Coaching Out of the Box, and it is just, I am a passionate advocate for coaching because I've been so lucky to see over basically 20 years or more the power of coaching, what it does for people who become coaches too, as well as the people that they work with, whether they're in organizations, whether they're working with individuals. And I always like to say this because it's so exciting. And I just want to remind everybody, what if, as a result of coaching, you had improved listening, improved communication, improved ability to give feedback, improvement in conflict resolution, positively impacted relationships, improvement in team dynamics and team communication, and number 7, increased ability to engage in conversations that are solutions focused and promote accountability. That is just a part of the findings that we presented to Harvard Medical School, McLean Hospital, and Institute of Coaching a while back, as a result of people learning the skills that we teach here at Coaching Out of the Box and our model. So that's the excitement that I have for coaching. And I am here to support Rosa and to support the questions and so on. And so I'm going to let Rosa carry on. And thanks, Rosa, by the way, for helping us, or hosting really today.
No, it's always a pleasure because I get to, like I said, I get to learn from their questions and I get to learn from doing this. It's always something to learn about credentialing, even as a credentialed coach. Now I get to introduce Sandra Mall, who is not only a color, not only is she incredible, she also knows everything. She's very wise, especially when it comes to coaching out of the box. She's a program advisor. So Sandra, if you want to jump in and introduce yourself so everyone knows who you are, and then we'll
Of
jump in.
course. Hi, all. My name is Sandra, and I am the program advisor here at Coaching Out of the Box. I am very well versed in all of our products and programs, as well as the ICF credentialing process. So if you ever have any questions about any of that, please feel free to connect with me. I'm always happy to help in any way I can.
And she really does. Like when she says she knows, she does. You can ask her obscure questions. I do. And she's always like, oh, here it is. Here's the answers. So as we're going through this and you have questions afterwards, anyone who's coached knows that sometimes the work happens after, but the questions appear afterwards. I encourage you to contact Sandra. So before I jump into the objectives for today, now that you know us, we'd like to know a little bit more about you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you do a really quick poll. And I say really quick. It's 5 questions, it's multiple choice. And what this is about is you. What you want to do with coaching, what you're doing with coaching, what you want to continue doing. So I am going to put it out there, give you, 30 seconds. Like I said, it's really easy, just so that we can, in some cases, tailor, in some cases, focus on really what this, what would be important for you, not only by your questions. So now I'm going to encourage all of you to actually, hopefully you can see it, just because I see that you're all reading the questions. So thank you. I'll give you a few more minutes. And then I'll close it and I'll post the answers so that you also know who else is in the room. So a few more seconds. I'll take it. Wonderful. God, this is so wonderful. Thank you so much for participating again. It makes our lives easier in terms of making sure that you're getting the information that you came here for. So I am going to end the polling. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the results so that we can all see. Again, I want to become a full-time or part-time coach with my own practice. 63% of you said yes. 13 is like, no, that's not what my intent is. And some are not sure. 25% aren't sure. I want to continue to work in an organization and add coaching skills to be a more effective employee. 69% said yeah. You know, again, what Allison talked about, what coaching can do in communication and leading teams. And 31% said, you know what, maybe I will have some other aspirations. I'm looking for a second career in coaching after I retire, one that provides that freedom, flexibility. 69% of you said, yeah, you know what, that's sort of what I'm looking for. And 31% said, you know what, I'm not sure, that's not necessarily an aspiration right now. I want to continue to work in my profession, but supplement with part-time coaching. 63% said yes. 38% of you said no. Again, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something else. And I want to develop my coaching skills to be a more effective leader in advance. 69% of you said yes. And others that said, you know what, I might want to develop my coaching skills for different reasons. So today, all about credentialing, and what our intention is to talk about credentialing. Why hold a credential? Which one? Give you a bit more information on, there are different ones. When you're looking at what maybe works for you or what you want, what to look for. Maybe even ask some questions on, what are you hoping to get? What are your goals? So what are you going to look for in the supports, the resources you're going to take with you on the journey? How will you know you're successful as you're going through and saying, you know what, how do I know I'm going to be successful as I ask these questions? Or how do I know that I'm going to be successful in getting what I need to get out of the webinar? Questions and answers, like we said, please throw your questions out as we go. We will do our best to answer them either in the chat or as part of the webinar. So let's dive in. When Allison talks about how passionate she is about coaching, she really is, which is wonderful. So I'm going to ask her to take the next slide, if it goes, about coaching, defining coaching.
Yeah, and I think it's important to just know this is where we're coming from, and we're talking about the International Coach Federation and its definition of coaching, which we adhere to as well, and what we agree to is what coaching is, which is partnering with clients, customers, anybody can read, colleagues or employees, in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. And you know, it's what I want to say about this and why it's growing so much, and why you're probably on this call as well, aside from the great reasons that I was able to read, is because it's an emergency out there. It is an emergency. We need all hands on deck. We have to equip everyone with these communication skills, some of you more so than others who will get a credential, some of you adding it into your leadership, but it is an emergency out there. There is so much going on, so much change happening so quickly. I did a keynote a little while back at a college, and I guess we had about 200 people or so in the audience, and I asked them this was a Thursday, and I said to them, in the last 3 days, how many of you have come upon an issue, a challenge, a new system, a new process, a new problem that you have never experienced before and that you don't really know how to deal with? At least 80% of them raised their hands when I asked that question. This is why there is this growing need, and this is why developing your ability or people's ability to tap into their ideas, their thoughts, their wisdom, their brilliance in some cases. We need that. We need everyone. For many of you who are leaders, I saw some of the answers on the poll. Some of you want to use it in the organization that you are currently working with. Fantastic. And fantastic because it will also add to the power and value of your resume, but also really support those of you who are leaders, because you're going to learn and you're learning a communication skill that will help do that. So I just wanted to mention that. And I also wanted to mention, because it's this credentialing process and going through the training and so on that you need to have to be able to obtain it takes a bit of time, takes commitment, takes practice and so on. And I will tell you that 20 years ago, when I made the choice to get into coaching, it was, I will really say, aside from having my children and marrying the person that's in my life, my husband, maybe there's a few other things too, but this was truly one of the best decisions I could have ever made in my life, because of the experiences that I've had, both internal in organizations, external, the type of clients I've met, the honor of working with people who are sharing, their trials and tribulations, and how, trying to figure out how to maneuver and navigate through all of this profound change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So over to you, Rosa.
I always, like I say, I always kind of, sit there and listen, just because of the wisdom and the experience that you bring, and what you've seen, especially in the changes of the coaching. It's an emerging industry. It's still an emerging industry. So we move into, why I hold the credential, because they're saying, okay, well, you know what? You're getting, there's a lot of people who are saying, I'm coaching. So what makes a credential so important? What makes it so special, as I call it? A couple of reasons, very personal to me, is that credibility piece. We talk about credentials in the webinar, like Allison mentioned, as the International Coach Federation credential. The International Coach Federation is the largest body, global organization dedicated to coaching, not only coaching excellence, but making sure that standards are there, the rigor is there. They often, I think it's about every 3 years, they also work with PricewaterhouseCoopers, who does the survey, a global survey, talks to people all over the world about their awareness of coaching, their use of coaching. And in the last one they did, which was 2017, that's when the report came out, 83% of people, of respondents, stated that it was important to them that the coach they worked with had a credential. So it brings that credibility around. Again, that process you have to go through, the training you have to go through, the practice, the rigor and the ethics that the ICF creates. Getting that credential and going through that process brings that credibility. I worked as an internal and external coach. I'll call it that internal coach piece. I would talk about coaching, and we created a coaching program in a large organization. And part of my ability to work with or to sell, to talk about the program and sell it to the executives as something they really needed to do, was the fact that I held a credential. Because for them it was, okay, so there's this body, there's the rigor, there's the standards, she has that, she knows what she's talking about. And whether it was smoke or mirrors, that's a whole different conversation, whether I know I'm talking about. The second is differentiation. While there is about 35,000 members in the ICF over 147 countries, because you can be a member of the ICF without holding a credential, of those, about 22,000, so from 35,000, it goes down to 22,000 members hold a credential. So that's already a differentiation. And even within that, it's, about 13,000 hold the ACC, the Associate Coaching Certification. I want to say almost 9,000 now, which is probably a bit different. Even when you started, Allison, you saw this big growth in the industry. Hold a professional coaching credential, and almost 900 hold an MCC. And that, when you think about the vast amount of people who get to coach, you'll see this differentiation. What makes you different than others who are coaching in this emerging industry? And legitimacy is, for me, that big third box of what a credential, why hold a credential. The high standards and rigor that ICF have, and they continue to make sure that they're the gold standard, and that's what we call them, set to legitimize experience, to say, okay, this is the experience I bring, and I have a credential, legitimizes that in some cases. Also legitimizes your commitment to professional development, which is part of the continuation of the credential. I said I've worked inside organizations, outside organizations. In some cases, when you're working for, or you want to respond to a proposal for an external competition, many organizations are saying, I need a credential. I need a credential for you to even start the process. Also, for me, it's going through the rigor and going through the process gave me confidence of, okay, I have this back. Okay, yes. And the professional development. Okay, I'm learning stuff. I'm growing as a coach. Allison, I'm wondering, as you're going through that, did I miss anything when it comes to, why hold a credential? Why is that so important?
A good question, and you've covered a lot. When you're either developing yourself internally in an organization to be seen as a coach internally, and or externally, and you're developing your own coaching practice, and I saw that in the poll. Some of you are definitely, many of you are doing this. Make it as easy as possible for people to hire you. Holding this ICF credential, and some of those people won't even know it exists. But let's make it easy. And as Rosa said, it's about, for you as well, as Rosa mentioned, building your confidence. Because what is happening as it's grown more, and as Rosa mentioned, is more organizations and individuals are becoming aware and asking for it, as Rosa mentioned. So why not get some of that out of the way for yourself, and why not be committed to that now? And I'm just going to segue into the next slide, Rosa, because then there's different ones that the ICF has. There's the ACC, the PCC, and the MCC. And here's the deal: get one. Get the first one. Focus on that, because here's the strategy that I'm going to mention, is that, yes, it requires you take training. We recommend, of course, that you take approved training that the ICF approves, so that you don't have to get into all of that business too, and documenting what you've done and so on, because that's very challenging. But also, each level requires a number of hours of coaching, and there's going to be a slide that we're going to show in a little bit about what are those pieces. But the key here is, I always say, go for the first one, because it's going to take time to get to it anyway, because you've got to get your coaching hours, your coaching experience in, and then keep building from there. In other words, you can take additional training, you can take additional programs, you've got to have additional clients, and so on, and get that, and then you're in the groove of it, and you've got yourself into it, which will support you. Because I get calls, maybe not every single day, but I get calls from people who've been coaching for a long period of time, and they are now bumping up against organizations that they work for or want to work for, asking them about their credential, and they never did it. Mm-hmm. They never went through that process, and now they're having to recreate what they've done and so on, because they're not getting the work that they would have wanted to get the work, or the internally they're not necessarily getting certain positions and so on. So I just wanted to add that piece. But get the first one, get the ACC. And organizations also are not saying, they're not going that far in it yet. And it's a very valuable credential to have and be proud of having as well. All right, I'll let you move forward from there.
And actually, what's interesting is, as Allison's talking, I'm just like, yes. And then I realize, yeah, you know what? That credential piece, I find, is becoming even more important. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Allison, I have you as these.
Yes, and I realize that too.
I know, and I say that because it's like when you're an MCC, you ask the really powerful questions, and that's what this is all about. So that's why I'll defer to my higher credential.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, what is your vision? Mm-hmm. What is it that you're wanting to do with this? What is the purpose of you? I mean, you're on this webinar today, so there's got to be a reason why. So what is your vision for your career and your business? And what is it that you see it will do for you? I say it's a no-brainer. I say it's going to, if I was embarking on it now, I would say, well, it's a no-brainer. It's going to make it easier for me to stand up in front of people or go and be interviewed in an organization and feel more confident, for one. And it also is professional. It's professional. And what you also want to be thinking about is, what time and resources can I invest? And I want to share my take on this, around this, because it can also get confusing too. There's oodles of coaching programs out there, oodles and oodles. Many of them are $10,000, $15,000. I was very involved with a fabulous, two fabulous universities, and very high priced and massive amount of time to put into it. But they were providing you with a lot of hours of approved coaching. But at the same time, the issue and the challenge was you may finish all of those hours, but you still haven't got the hours in for your coaching practice to obtain, say, one of those higher credentials. So my take after all these years of being in it and seeing all the different twists and turns, for some people, it makes sense. Get the 60 hours that the ACC requires. Get your 100 hours in under your belt. Watch your dollars because it can be less, considerably less costly to go that route for some of you. The other choice may be better. And also, as you start gathering your 100 hours of coaching, by coaching people, in a way, when you're new to this, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And by getting that practice time in, by getting those hours under your belt, by seeing the landscape of coaching, by learning more about it, you may decide, do I want to get more hours? Or is my career going to go in this direction? I've got some under my belt, I've got an ACC, that's fantastic. Or I want to take this program over here that really is focusing on something very particular about what I've realized I may want to do in coaching. Versus if you go in and say take the 125 hours, which is a requirement of the PCC level and above of coach specific training, you may find by the time you get those hours in and so on, you may have a whole different spin on this. You may have a whole different take on it. And some of you, that may not be the case. I'm just sharing what I've seen and trying to, really make you think, what is the time and resources that I can afford to spend and invest? And really consider, can I do that? Can I make that happen? And regardless, if you go the shorter route versus the longer route, you can still do it. It's not the end of the world, and also that fits that actually segues as well as into what is the best choice for you right now. What is going to be right for you at this point in your life at this time? And those are 4 open-ended questions that take time to consider and think about that. Now I'm curious. As a result of this so far, does anybody have any, I'm not seeing anything on the chat, but has anybody got any questions so far?
I do see someone had sent me a comment saying that there's a noise, and I don't know where the noise is coming from. So just talking about that was like the overall, but I think, as I see
I'm so sorry about
chat,
that.
No, I see the chat. It's, and again, I want to come back, and I know these are big questions, like you're, and it's what's the best choice, what's your vision, all of that stuff. So I am going to, as you're pondering those questions, I'm also going to ponder, or I'm going to get you to think about other questions. Allison talked about the, not only has there been this emergence in the coaching industry as coaches, there's also been an emergence in coach training. So in some cases, it's this huge, where do I start? And those questions of what do you want to do with it? What's the best for you right now? What kind of resources, time, energy, funds? When you talk about what program, the training that will help you get from where you are to where you want to go, when you talk about, which program is right, is it a recognized program among peers? We'll talk about the different certification or the different credentials, and in that it's, some programs are maybe approved by the ICF, some others aren't. So is that, important to you, looking into that? Will the program be around? Is a big thing in the future. It's, there's a lot of people who are saying, here, I'm doing some coach training. It might just be me. So it's, again, that, will it be around? Will it be recognized? Does it have a good reputation, the program? Is it people have gone through it? There's testimonials. Some programs will say, hey, did you want to talk to someone who's gone through it? Is there ongoing support? Is it training's done and that might be an option for you and say, yay. And sometimes it's hang on for a sec. Now I'm in the real world. Is there someone I can go back to with support? Does that program offer continuing education? Can they allow for other courses for me to take other courses to add to not only my own practice, but sometimes it's when you're going and redoing a credential to get those professional continuing education hours. Is the program growing and evolving? Just like coaching is growing and evolving, just like the issues, the playing field that the leaders that we work with are is growing and evolving. You want a program that does that as well, that looks at itself and says, you know, is this giving those who are coming up and want coach training, are we keeping up with that? Are we evolving? Is it accredited? And again, we'll talk about this when we talk about the ACC and the PCC and about the accredited through the ICF. Is it accredited? May make your life easier because there's a lot of less documentation, less that you need to do to get through it. Sorry, there's like, I just went looking at the chat. You can count those coaching hours as long as they're not direct reports. Yes. When we start talking about the amount of hours, which we're going to start doing now, let's just dive in and go back. Thank you. So we talk about there being 3 coaching credentials: the associate certified coach, professional certified coach, and the master certified coach. Today we're actually going to just focus on the ACC and the PCC. The master certified coach has similar requirements. The hours, as you can tell, the hours are just, you know, of practice to get to that mastery level. So I'm going to start with the ACC. And what I want to give you on this webinar is an overview of what the ICF requirements are. I will encourage you that as you're going through, go to the ICF, go to coachfederation.org. I think that's what it is. And look at their information, because what I give you might change, doesn't necessarily change often, and it may. So they are the Bible, go to them. What we wanted to show you was just the differences, to start putting some meat on the bones of where should I go from here? What works for me? So the ACC, that first, the first one, that first one has 3 paths, depending on, that all stemming from what training you start with. So there's the accredited coach training program path. That is, some of those bigger, longer, more robust programs that are all listed. You can go onto the website and see those. There's the approved coaching specific training hours path, which is similar, where the ICF has accredited a program at specific hours. So you get to go and say, okay, here's the program that I can go through. And a portfolio. Allison mentioned that a little bit when you're talking about the portfolio is you need 60 hours of coach specific training that people might have done and people might have picked from here and there. Not a comprehensive program. There's a lot of documentation that is needed. So that's that first piece, the 60 hours of training. Also, the requirement is 10 hours of mentor coaching. In the coach training program, that usually is somehow integrated into their program with the coach specific training hours, not necessarily. So you may have to get your 10-hour mentor coaching in addition to. One of the great things about Coaching Out of the Box is we actually have those 10 hours mentor coaching hours within our fast track program. Not only is it kind of in the group, but it's also individual, 3 hours of individual. Those mentor coaching hours also in that portfolio. The ICF is saying, we want someone who is at your credential or higher to give you some feedback to make you better. And so there's the mentor coaching requirement. There's the practice, the 100 hours of coaching. Now, there's really specific requirements to this. One is these 100 hours have to happen following the start of your coach training. So you might say, and I think that may be where Allison was talking about some people who say, I want a credential, I have this many hours, and the ICF will say, but it has to start after your coach specific training. What Allison mentioned even in the chat, those hours can't be with someone you supervise. They need to be, pure, like coaching. If you're in an organization, hours that are coaching, that you are coaching. The minimum 100 hours have to be with 8 different clients. That is to, again, give you practice over different people. So that you get that you get exposure to different styles, different circumstances. 25 of that 100 hours has to happen within 18 months of the application. So again, the ICF is saying, awesome, I love the fact that you're coaching, go make an impact, and I want to make sure that there is a chunk of your coaching that is right now, that has happened within 18 months of your application. Wanted to note something in the 100 hours of coaching, 75 of that needs to be paid. So 25 can be pro bono and in that paid, it can be someone has actually paid you with funds. It can also be barter, and that's a coach for coach. I'm going to coach you, you pay me with coaching. So that I want to make sure that I'm going to go to the chat after this. This coach specific training hours path and the portfolio path, those are those hours, the paths of not necessarily that big long program. There's also a need for you to be assessed, for someone, an ICF assessor, to listen, review a coaching session and a transcript, so that, again, they know that you're at that level. One of the, again, beautiful things about the Coaching Out of the Box Fast Track program is the preparation. We get you going through that so that you're prepared to submit. You're prepared to do that and submit to the ICF so that you're ready to rock. Because again, this is about supporting you on your path. I want to make sure before I go into PCC, oh, there was one more thing. The CKA is the Coach Knowledge Assessment. Anybody who's going for any one of these credentials has to do that Coach Knowledge Assessment, at least like as soon as they go in. So that's the first time. You only have to do it once. It is a 3-hour exam. And there are Coaching Out of the Box offers. There are courses, whether built into our Fast Track program or a la carte, that someone can take to go through and say, how do I prepare for this exam? Again, all in service to that high standard that the ICF wants to say, okay, if you're getting this coach credential, this is the standard you're at of, do you know the theory? Do you have the practice? Are you being seen by someone else who has a, whether it's an assessor to say, yes, you're doing this. So it allows for that standard to be upheld. Before I go to the PCC, I'm going to go to the chat. There's the exam, oh, Allison, yes, the exam is done online. You have 3 hours to complete it. So it's not that you sit in a room, necessarily in a big gym. Everyone remembers those tests. Linda, you say, I'm new and not yet graduated, but getting the coaching sessions is hard, especially when you're trying to get 75 hours. Coaching is not on people's radar where I live. One is wonderful, and Linda, I appreciate that, because again, it's emerging and people are still maybe confused about what coaching is, and this is the opportunity to say this is what it is and educate people. There's also a wonderful trend where I do a lot of my coaching on the phone or online. My coaching is across Canada. In some cases, it goes into different countries, different time zones. So using networks, leveraging what you already have to look further than the community, maybe physical community you're in, to say, how can I get my coaching hours? What can I do? Who can I talk to? Again, broadening that. Can you say a little bit more about mentor coaching? That's us being coached by someone certified at a higher level, and how is that included in the Fast Track program? Lauren, great question. First is, hopefully I don't miss anything, is you are coached by someone at your level and or higher. And I'm going to say something very quick about the ACC. So you can be in the AC, if you're going for ACC, you can be coached by someone at an ACC level who's gone through one cycle of being like a credentialed coach. So you have to renew every 3 years. So the ICF says, yes, you can have someone at that level, but they also have to have gone through the continuing education, the professional development to kind of keep them at that level. Same thing, and I'm going to maybe turn to either Sandra or Allison, same thing with PCC, that it's at that, if it's at that level or higher, if it's at that level, they have to have gone through one cycle. Is that correct?
Yes, and good, and if I can go back to that question, all our mentor coaches at Coaching Out of the Box are PCC level or greater. So that's a no-brainer. We want to make sure that there's no issue there at all. And you in our program, and what the mentor coaching is required by the ICF is it can be 7 hours of group mentor coaching and 3 hours of one-on-one. And within our program, we provide that via our group mentor coaching, which is part of our coaching skills practicum program that's part of the fast track, as well as we assign you a qualified mentor coach who will provide you with the 3 one-on-one hours, so that whole package includes that. And so once you're done, you've got all of those requirements to apply, that part of your requirements to apply for your ACC credential. I also want to just mention, great answer, Rosa, about for Linda regarding obtaining people to work with. And there is no, first of all, perfect. International, they can be from anywhere. You do not have to have them locally necessarily. The other piece is, what's the opportunity in this for you to work with people? And let me just share briefly what I did, because think about it, 20 some odd years ago, it was even worse about what people knew. And I did live in a city, but people didn't really know what, they kept thinking I was a soccer coach or a baseball coach or something like that. So what I did is I offered to some friends and associates that I knew, just anybody, would they be willing to help me as I was learning how to coach, and I would like to practice with them. So initially, those people were free. In other words, I offered to coach them for free, and it was a period of 3 months. So I got some hours in for that. And then I said, if you're happy with what I have done, you can continue working with me. And I specified for a specific amount and how that would work. And so what happened was, first of all, I got out of the gate. I had 5 people, and this was a couple of family members. Long term, I'm not going to coach my brother-in-law again. I'm just going to admit it. But it got me going. They don't have to be perfect. And it got me out of the gate. And then what happened is they all became advocates for what I did, but they also started to refer. And remember, you can graduate your fee initially. You can graduate it. And if you're in a working environment, there may be people in the work environment that you could offer to coach. And for some of you, it may be that your employer might also say, as part of what you do, it's coaching, as long as they're not a direct report. I just want to be really clear about that. So I hope I answered that question.
Mm-hmm. I hope so too. There is a question that I want to actually maybe refer to you as well, is how can I get 100 hours of coaching?
Yes.
It was more about how does coaching out of the box help with that?
Okay. We help by providing the training to build your confidence to do it, but we can't literally provide you with clients. That's your job, and it will be your job as you grow in the profession, whether or not it's internal in an organization, there's a number of people that are internal in an organization, and what I speak to them about, or have spoken to them about, because they've got to engage some people in there. They got to go and speak a bit, or talk about, or do a lunch and learn and talk about the benefits of coaching and so on, and gain some people to work with that way. This is all part of, whether you're internal or external, you're going to need to learn how to speak about coaching, what it is. But again, you can. I made a lot of mistakes when I first started coaching. In fact, I remember this one person, the poor soul who I started to coach. I had so many questions and felt that I had to solve every particular issue that he had. I didn't have as good a coach training as I think we have now, by the way, and I overcoached him. But boy, did I ever learn about that in starting with him. And he ended up referring clients to me because he got so much value. Because think about it. How many people does someone have a safe place to speak to about their own particular issues and challenges? It's not that many. You know, there's your partners, there's your coworkers who know you really, really well. Maybe that's not ideal. You want somebody maybe a little more arm's length, who can create that safe environment where you can sort of say, you know what, I don't know what to do right now. And then you're equipped by, in our case, taking our program where we provide you with some toolkits, we provide you with training where you have some great questions you can ask them. You have a process that you can use so that at the end, when you've had your maybe 60 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever it is, time with them, they are moving. The idea is that when they finish a conversation with you, when you're coaching them, that they have specifics that they have committed to as a result of the conversation. It's not just an open-ended thing. One of the favorite things I will always say is, okay, so what are you committed to and are going to do as a result of our conversation today, and by when? We are holding them accountable. We are talking to them about creating, about moving forward and taking action. So that, and the whole reason why coaching is growing so much too, is so that they can move farther, faster, easier, quicker than they would have without a coach.
There is a couple of questions on the chat that I want to get to really, really quickly.
Good.
What is the minimum charge allowable when we're charging coaches to get the hours in? There is no minimum. Like I said, it can be paid money. I remember when I started out, I was coaching for coffee. Like, you know what, buy me a coffee, or again, barter. I will coach you, you will coach me. That is paid for the ICF. Sandra's she's on my coffee. You know, there's also a question about what qualifies as a coaching session? Are there topics that must be touched upon or be obtained? Allison, you talked about this as you're going through. Is it a coaching conversation as defined by the ICF? Is it a conversation? We all have wonderful, powerful conversations that don't go anywhere. Coaching conversations are well defined or the ICF has defined what it is. It's about helping someone move from where they are to where they want to go. Actionable, like, you know, most quickly with actions, you know, what will you do by when, helping that, creating the space for that. Are there topics that need to be addressed in order for the coaching hours to count? No. Whatever the person comes to you with is in service to them. It's just, is it a coaching conversation by the definitions of the ICF? Now, hopefully, I want to make sure, and Sandra is doing a fantastic job, thank you, Sandra, of asking, of answering some of those questions about training hours through, does it have to be training hours through the ICF accredited program? If it's not, it will just dictate which path you're on. So I think that I may have answered all the questions that Sandra hasn't gotten to. Allison, before we go on, and I'll do PCC really quick, is there anything else that you wanted to add before we jump into PCC?
Let me think here for a second. I mean, there's always. It's all right, because one of the things that certainly you can reach out to us, reach out to Sandra to talk afterwards if there's something that we haven't covered in this webinar as well. We're happy to support you in that. So I'll let you move.
And when it comes to some of those specifics, you know, we'll give you all the information we absolutely can. Then if we don't, we'll say, go to the ICF website. Because again, they're the ones who set the standard. They're the ones who may ask when you have those odd kind of specific questions, we'll send you back. I'm going to do PCC really quick, and then I'm going to go into some of those other pieces before we ask you, you know, maybe what you're getting out of it. The PCC, very similar to the ACC in terms of the different pathways, depending on the coach training that you're taking, the 125 hours of coach training. So that is different. It's double and a little bit of, and again, go onto the ICF website. It'll talk about which programs are accredited coach training programs, which ones are approved specific training hours. So then not only is it the hours of training, again, those mentor coaching hours happen if you're going through the specific training hours or the portfolio route. It's 500 hours of coaching experience. The ICF is saying, okay, I need to know if you're going to be at that level. Show me your practice. What has your practice been? 450 of that is paid. Again, we'll contact the paid of, you know, in money, in barter of coaching within, and has to include at least 50 clients and or 50 hours, sorry. 50 hours need to occur in the 18 months prior to the application. Note that those hours, very similar to the ACC, have to happen once you start your coach training. So you can have abundance of hours before any coach training, and the ICF is saying, I need 500 you know, once you start that coach training, whatever that coach training looks like for you. And again, whether it's the coach specific training hours or the portfolio, there might be additional requirements, including a performance evaluation and ACC, PCC, or MCC. The first credential you get, you have to do a knowledge assessment, the coach knowledge assessment. I want to, looking at the time, I want to just, we talked a lot, and which is wonderful, about why coaching out of the box. And I want to highlight a few things that we may not have gotten to in terms of the questioning. But again, as you're going through it, you know, go to our website, find out more information. But you're saying, why coaching out of the box? Well, it's cost effective. Allison talked about this, you know, there are programs that are long in terms of timing, that are long in terms, or a lot in terms of financial commitment. Given the robustness of coaching out of the box with the inclusion of mentoring hours, preparing you for not only the knowledge assessment, but also how do you give the ICF a recording and a transcript so they can assess it. It is, in some cases, you know, a third of what you're paying for a larger, longer, you know, coaching program. Around, depending on whether US dollars, but I'll quote the Canadian dollars, about $3,900, $3,980. But again, the specifics are on the website. And like I said, it includes the mentor hours, it includes that practice. It is live and interactive, yay, which I enjoy because I get to be one of the facilitators. And we take the coach approach to how we facilitate the learning. We create those experiences of how do you practice the coaching? How do you learn from each other? Each of the facilitators, Allison and the group, has been very intentional about the facilitators, and we each bring our own passion and our own enthusiasm. So we'll always bring a different spin to things. It is, the program is, I want to make sure it's like approved coach specific training hours. So it's that path. That it takes some of that guesswork out of it for you. And then those places where there's additional commitments or additional work, we prepare you for that. Or at least we bring it up to your attention.
Hi! Just come to the front door up the stairs.
Yes. Allison, Allison, I'm going to mute you. Okay, good. Yay. The proven results. Now I want to, and I think that she may have stepped away. Um, I'm actually going to go to the last one first, and then hopefully Allison comes back, because I wanted to talk about something very specific. We have had 18,000 people. Like, again, I asked those questions about, will it be around? Does it have a reputation? Has it proven results? 18,000 people, or learners, have gone through our programs, and that's across 38 countries. So it's not just one country. We have diverse experiences within the classroom, which is wonderful. I just did a course where we were talking from people from all over Canada, all over the US. Someone was calling in from India in the rainy season. So you have this diverse experience in the classroom. You have this diverse experience with the facilitators, and it's growing. There's the evolution of some of our programs. There's the addition of some programs. So I'm going to the chat. That's why I'm looking over here. 500, Laura, you said 500 and 2,500 hours seems hard to document. Any advice? There are, I was gonna say, I think there's Excel spreadsheets. There's different things that you can download from resources that you can keep those hours, keep that track of how many hours, which leaders, what time frame. My understanding, and Sandra, you might know this a bit more than I do. My understanding is when I did the credentialing, you had to submit the documentation. Now there is an understanding that you have the documentation and the ICF may ask for it. You don't submit it. It's like you kind of sign. It's almost like you agree to that you have it. It's almost a legal binding affidavit almost, but you don't have to actually send it in. That's a bit of a change.
That is correct. Basically now what they do, because of the privacy laws that have all been changing over the past couple of years, is that you will attest to having those hours done. However, it is important that you still maintain a log of some sort with the information that the ICF needs, because they do have the ability to come back within 7 years to audit that log to be sure that your attestation was true.
And I love that, the 7 years piece. That now I learned that for myself. Thank you, Sandra. The other thing that's different about coaching out of the box is that we take the time in the way the fast track program is laid out, is to talk about and to move through what you need to be as a coach, how you need to show up as a coach. So who you need to be is what we call it, where it's not only is it the theory and how do you coach and when do you coach and let's try this and here's some tools. It's who do you need to be to show up? How do you show up in the best way to serve the person that you're coaching? So that is also a bit of a difference. I will, now I don't know if Allison's still here. I know that she was dealing with something else there.
Yes, I am. And I apologize. When you're working virtually, sometimes things happen that are completely unexpected, and I apologize for not muting.
And I love the like what that says is that whole flexibility that some of us are looking for when it comes to coaching as a career. Now I know that we have like a little bit of time, and I wanted to get to, but the proven results piece, is there something that you wanted to add quickly about, like we talked about the program, but is there something you wanted to add about the results piece or the proven results piece that Coaching Out of the Box has?
Well, yes, and thanks for asking. Yes, our program has been delivered to a number of large organizations, and one of those large organizations, and actually I shared that at the beginning, the top 7 results. Remember the findings that we presented to Harvard and the Institute of Coaching, etc. That's what happened was this large organization assessed this unbeknownst to us. They hired an external consultant. They did pre and post surveys and all kinds of things that we had absolutely nothing to do. But I think it's reassuring that our model is proven. And we had excellent results as well. Part of what I shared, that's what I'm referring to.
Wonderful. And that's, again, that piece of, will it be around? Has the method been proven? Have what we're teaching been
Yes.
proven? It's so when you're looking at a program, thinking about that. Now, Allison, do you want to do this really, really quick?
Sure.
And then we'll wrap it up.
And I know we're almost there. These are our upcoming programs. If it works for you, we'd love to have you join them. So this is purely just letting you know what we've got going on. When we do our free webinars, of course, one of the reasons is, well, we want to let more people know about us and what we offer. So there we go. And we've got contact information. Of course, we encourage you to speak to Sandra and schedule a time with her because she can, as you can tell, she has a lot of knowledge and ability to answer your questions. And so, and if you're from an organization and you want to learn more about how to develop internal capacity and develop coaching skills there, please contact us. We'd love to speak to you and support that.
Excellent. Now, I know that we're running out of time because we love talking about this, but I'm going to ask if you want to add in the chat what you're walking away with as a result of today's webinar. Is there one thing you're taking away? Is there one thing you learned? Whatever that is. Feel free to share it in the chat. I will read it as quickly as possible. Again, I wanted to reiterate that you will be getting a recording or link to the recording of this webinar. And I encourage you to go to the website because there's all the rest of our series of webinars and tools and more information about our programs. So go do some digging and have some fun. Kelly said clarification on coaching. Thank you. You're welcome. Clarification on the questions asked. I also wanted to thank you all for participating, asking your questions, confirmation of what I read in the ICF. Yes, I was doing homework before. So I wish you all a fantastic week. I encourage you, if you have any questions, to contact us. You know what, Tiffany, can't wait to get started. Kudos and go for it. So good luck as you're going forward. Good luck. And hope we see you in some of our courses. I just put that as a plug for me because I love seeing names that I recognize. So thank you all.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rosa. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, everybody.